really good way to end the season last week, beating a really good team. Coming out, hopefully, guys that's nicked up, be ready to go. So, man, we're looking forward to this. We're looking forward to it. It's new to some guys, all right, but it's a walk in the park for other guys that's been there. So, our young guys are leaning on that, leaning on the older guys that's been there. And again, like I said, we're looking forward to it.
AG, before we hit the Rams and focus on that, just you have an opportunities coming up. 4 teams have requested to talk to you.
Yeah.
Just wondering how that feels, I guess, to get that kind of acknowledgement from the vacancies that are there, and how you plan on approaching it starting next week.
Well, listen, I'm flattered by the interview request. I really am. And man, I do not want it to sound like coach speak, but I try to focus on the main thing for this team, for this organization, because this is a big deal for us. And to be able to go out there and beat this team, which is a good team, is huge. So I will be honest. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I'm really, really focused on like how we're gonna play defensively against this team, and then as a whole, right, as an overall team, how do we make sure we complement each other and go out there and try to win this game? Because we're in the tournament, and we all know it. It doesn't matter. You just get in the tournament. We're at where we're at. You know, I've always learned that under Bill Parcells. Just get in the freaking tournament, and anything can happen after that. And we're in it, and we're ready to go.
Will you take all those interviews?
Say it again.
Will you take all 4 of those?
Will I take them all? I mean, yeah.
I got one more, just kind of related to that, but Dan's going to have his own coaching tree, if you will, coming up, and maybe it's an extension of Bill or Sean or whatever. But can you just, what's the biggest thing you've learned about being a head coach just from being around Dan?
The number one thing I think is important is, man, just the collaboration with the GM and the owner, and making sure that vision, that collective vision, is the same. Because once that's intact, and you keep, all 3 of you guys are saying, old women are saying the same thing, that feeds down to the staff, then feeds down to the players, and man, they just hear the same vision over and over again. And you talk about culture. Culture is about people, and you bring the right people in, you're gonna have the right culture.
In terms of the Rams, they use a lot of that at the snap motion, turbo motion, whatever it's called. And they use it with purpose, whether it's getting the guy involved in the run blocking, or handing it off to their receivers, or just getting them space. What are the challenges for a defense, particularly one of yours, that's still young, gaining experience, kind of finding their own way? What are the challenges of those turbo motion looks?
The communication first and foremost, and exactly how do you want to handle those turbos. And everybody handle them different. And we actually handle those by week, because we want to make sure we put ourselves in the best position on how to handle those. But what they do a really good job of, they use that to protect the edge of the defense for the most part. So any type of edge pressure either slows you down, or they're going to end up blocking you for the most part. So we have to be smart in exactly how we operate and how we attack this team. And also they condense you to get you out, to get out on the perimeter also. So once they condense you, then then you condense, and then they just create space in the passing game for deep overs and in the run game for any type of toss play. So we have to understand that first and foremost, and understand how we're going to attack that and be good and be effective in what we do.
So much talk about they're talented wide receivers, and they're very good. But what does Kyron Williams bring to that offense, and the ability to run the football and then have play action off that? That seems like a real strength of theirs.
Well, for him himself, I've actually showed a couple of clips to our defense. Even though he's a guy that's, some people say smaller stature, he's not just a small guy. He does a really good job of breaking tackles. That's why we have to be the best tackling team throughout this playoffs. Because of that, every team that you're playing is a team that does a really good job of breaking tackles. But this team in particular, with the receivers and with the running back, that we got to do a good job of. So he's tough. He's powerful. He has a stiff arm that's effective, and we got to understand that. So we have to make sure that we wrap up and have population to the ball with this player.
When Puka was blowing up to start the year, there was a lot of talk how sustainable it would be with Cooper back in the lineup. Well, he certainly sustained that production. I'm just like, how's that offense evolved with both of those pretty unique wide receivers?
Well, they have 2 good players. And when you're a good player, you don't really see the drop off as much, you know. So he's here to stay, and we have to deal with him, which we will, right, with all those guys. And that's just what it is. Listen, we played against good players throughout this season. There's no different than these guys. So we're going to attack them the way we attack them, and we'll let the chips fall where they may.
You incorporated Gardner Johnson back in, but I guess I looked at, I hope I'm right, 51 snaps you gave him last week. And was that just bringing him in, or is that like the normal workload you're going to try to keep
But
him?
it's probably a lot of snaps for him, but he was ready to play. And I think between all three of our safeties, all averaged around that 47 plays, which is, I think, is a really good deal to have good players in the game. So, listen, we have wrinkles for all those guys, and you'll see how it all plays out.
Coach, how much have you grown over these last couple of years to kind of prepare you for, this stage of being with this team this time? We saw a survey released a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you saw the NFLPA. They voted you the top defensive coordinator. Just your style, your coaching style. How much have you grown over these last 2 seasons?
Listen, I feel like I grow every year in different aspects of just the NFL in general. Number one, as a play caller. Number two, of understanding the big picture from not just a coordinator perspective, but from a head coach. And Dan does a really good job of filling me in, allowing me to have my thoughts to him on like different situations that have happened. How would I handle it? So just hats off to him. And it's a reason why that you have a coaching staff like we do. But even our younger guys are ascending because of the way that he operates. And a lot of that comes from how Coach Payton used to handle us back in the New Orleans. So, man, there's a lot of different ways that I've grown. And it's too much to actually sit here and talk about. But understanding how to collaborate with your GM, understanding how to speak with your owner, and more or less understand how to relate with your players, which is not an issue for me at all because I'm just going to be myself. And I think that's one thing that the players see is, listen, I'm no fake. And the thing that players do, they can point out a fake. And there's nothing fake about me.
What do you have to see from James Houston during the practice week to feel confident that he can help you guys on Sunday?
Practice. That's it. Go out and practice, see how effective you can be. And if you're effective, then we'll put you in there and let you play.
You mentioned tackling, that you guys have to be the best tackling team in the playoffs. It hasn't really been an issue for you guys this year, but just how do you feel about the way that you've handled that aspect of the
Listen, I think we've been a pretty good tackling team for the most part. But when you see teams like when you see players like Puka, you see players like Williams, man, we just have to emphasize that and let it be known. Because sometimes when you don't really just think about it for the most part because you're pretty good at it, sometimes it can slip away. All right, so I want to make sure that's emphasized and show this clips. Listen, look at these guys now. Just because he's a smaller stature guy, man, he has a strong lower body. Same thing with Puka, a strong lower body. And everybody I talk to, that's the number one thing that they say is, man, don't be surprised by the way these guys break tackles, and it shows up on tape.
I want to go back to Tim's question about Williams. I know he mentioned the play action element of it. He gets to the line of scrimmage in a hurry, very little wasted motion.
Yeah.
And you guys are very good against the run because of how committed your linebackers are to it.
Yeah.
They do very well against zone coverage. Matthew sees the field really well in that
Yeah.
regard. So how important are your linebackers, I guess, in their ability to diagnose quickly and be in the right positions? How important is that to your success
Well,
this
that's one
week?
thing that we do. We talk about all the time as far as, man, how are they offensive line block? Are they showing us drop back? Are they showing us play action? And they do a good job. Because I'll tell you what, those two guards they have, I mean, they're powerful men, and they do come off the ball. So you're right. We have to be really good at being able to diagnose that, get back into our zones, and be able to read the quarterback and play. But listen, we're always going to mix up our coverages. We're not just always going to be in zone coverage. We have man concepts that we utilize quite a bit. And we're going to do everything we can to try to affect this quarterback.
We know Stafford pretty well here. Obviously, just your thoughts on how he's evolved, as a quarterback the last
He's a
couple
good
of
player.
years.
That's it. And we got good players too. So good player against good player. Let's go.
Yeah, Aaron, sometimes you see it takes young receivers a little bit of time to acclimate to this league.
Yeah.
But what's allowed Nakua to have such success his rookie year?
You got to go ask their staff. I mean, he'll tell you. The thing I know, he's been breaking tackles. He's been catching a lot of balls, and the quarterback trusts him. So that's all we need to know. He's a guy that we have to target, and we will target that player.
What have you seen from Jack Campbell the last month or so? I think Dan said the other day this Vikings game was the best he's played.
The same thing I've been telling you guys every week about this player. He's a damn good player. It's the reason why we drafted him. And he's going to be a good player for us for a long time.
That's one last thing I just forgot. Romeo Quarles he's played pretty well the last couple
Yes,
of
he
weeks
has.
as a quarterback. Just your thoughts on why? I mean, is it finally he's over that injury, the opportunity? What is it?
You know, I think that's a good point. I think that has a lot to do with it. I think he's feeling much better from the injury. Listen, everybody's different, and they talk about that Achilles injury. Sometimes it take you a year, maybe a year and a half to really get over that and get moving. And I'll tell you what, he's helping us out a lot. And you see his rep count really go up, and then putting him in package to where he can be free, try to go one-on-one and get to the quarterback. So we'll continue to do that. And man, I'm happy for that player. I really am, because he's starting to see himself as a guy that can affect the game, and we're going to put him in position to do that.
How can you explain what it takes to win?
Yeah, I think my favorite thing about the playoffs, and really I think this is what it takes, is my favorite thing about the playoffs, and every coach says it every single year, and they say it most games that they play in. But the truth in this one is you got to find a way to win one game, and it's against those guys. It's going to be Sunday night at 8 o'clock, and you only got to play them one time, and you just got to find a way to win that one game. And I think it's really what makes this time of year great, because you get to, I mean, you're not worried about what look did I show this week, what look do I want to show the next week. None of that. You're just worried about, okay, how can we do this one game on this one night? And I really think that's like the key to the playoffs, is just taking it one game at a time. And then as soon as you take care of that game, you get a chance to play again, and then everything goes. And you feel it. It's everything from every coach, every player, the building, I mean, is all in on that one game. And so I think there's just a real fine focus. And I think when you treat it that way, then all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh my God, it's come, it's gone, and you reach your dreams or whatever. But
Like telling them that, how do you impress that upon players? Because it may be easy to look at the big picture for them versus.
yeah, I think the other thing for me this time of year, this is like, I said this to the players the other day, but this time of year to me it's great. It's not like I ever prepared for a test when I was in college. You guys know that. But maybe like when I was taking that test to become a private pilot, and I said, okay, I mean, I was ready, and it was like, okay, now it's time to take the test. Well, you're ready to go. When you know you're prepared and you're ready, you're fired up, you can't wait. You're excited to do it. Let's go. And let's take the test and knock it out. And I think, to me, that's like what this time of year is. Like, we build up and we learn lessons throughout the course of the year. And the whole goal every week is to try to get a little bit better and improve individually and collectively as a whole. And learn lessons along the way, and learn lessons from other teams in the league on other plays that you've seen that are out there. And then this time of year, to me, it's like, hey, man, now it's time to just cut it loose and go have fun and play and really enjoy the moment. And, you got to execute, but you have to do that every single week. And you got to focus on your job. And I think sometimes that can get guys. I had a player tell me one time who had won a Super Bowl before we had, and he said, really it comes down to it's the team that executes the best that wins the game. And it's that one play where one guy didn't do it right. It's really the team that can make the fewest mistakes, but.
Khalil can't go if you narrowed in on your punt returner yet?
No, I mean, I think there's still some things with the roster depending on like injuries and whatnot, and who could come up, who could come down for us. Obviously, we got, Laporta as well documented, Leaf situation. Where's he at? So for us, it'll be the best player for our football team that we have available to us to use, that we think can also manage the roles. So guys like St. Brown, could he do that? It's possible. He's been an emergency returner for us all season long. Obviously, we got Donovan, who did it in Cleveland, so that could be an option. And then you got Mo Alexander on the practice squad. If we're able to get him up, he'd be a great option. He's a great player. So anyway, it'll be one of those.
We ask you weekly kind of the strengths of the opposing special teams. If you just look at the raw numbers with the Rams, they're bottom 5 in most of the key stat categories, in that punting, kickoff return, punt return, field goal percentage. So what am I missing when I'm looking at the raw numbers? What do they do well?
Yeah, well, Number one, I would say in any given game, anything can happen. We all know that. So really throw out the numbers in all these games. You know, it just comes down to any one play. And at any moment, any guy can make a play. And then I do think, not to go on forever about it, I know we've talked statistics in here, but I really do think, like, statistically, the traditional statistics are on special teams are not worth a whole lot right now. Kickoff return, these numbers, they're influenced by somebody's drive start is based off, well, they had a post safety play and they were kicking off from the 20. Well, the average drive start after that play is the 40. And they only had 10 returns on the season, and one of them they got back to the 40. Well, then it looks like they did a good job. And in the old days, when there was a bunch of plays that played out, well, then that would average out of there and kind of help alleviate that or make that dissipate. And it's the same thing with the punt game. So I do feel like the statistics aren't necessarily a great indicator of how a team is. I know this. They got some big rushers on their punt team. They got a bunch of big guys. They run a 3-4 system, so they got a bunch of outside linebackers, big body types. That's a challenge. On the inside for us, we got to do a great job in protection. They rush hard. They sometimes got Donald rushing and safe, and 91 and 99 on the inside there. We got to make sure we handle them. I think 81 does a good job getting downhill with the ball in his hand as a returner, both phases for them. You go back to our Chicago game, that's kind of what their returner did to us. Got downhill in a hurry, so we got to make sure we do a good job handling him on the perimeter. They're gunners. I feel like 26 is coming back, and number 6 is a good player. They're quick. They cover the field, so we got to take care of those guys on the outside. They rush hard on their field goal block. They got a bunch of good defensive linemen, I'm pretty sure, on that side of the ball. They do a good job there, and we got to make sure we protect. In our return game, you know, they've kicked a decent number of touchbacks, but in the last couple of weeks, they've kicked some more returnable balls, so we got to be ready for that on kickoff return. Not to mention surprise onside kick and all those things, you know, that you got to take care of, and the plays that you got to eliminate that no one sees. We got to do a good job there with that, and then same thing with our punt return. So there's a number of challenges the way I see it, but
You mentioned his number, Skowronek or whatever. Is he one of their top?
yeah, number 18, he does a great job. He's a personal protector. He's been a good player for them. Obviously, the last time we played him, he might have been a rookie out there, but he's become a really good player, productive for them in coverage for sure. So they got a number of good players, and they present a challenge for us in a lot of different ways. We got to make sure we're on spot.
I know you said you're still sorting through your punt return options, but we've talked a lot about JMO and the trust he's earned offensively. I'm curious from a special teams perspective, has that extended to what you've seen from him, and would he be in the mix if he's healthy? Could he be in the mix?
Yeah, I see him a little further down the line than those other guys I mentioned, but obviously he's done a great job. Even I see the development from him.
How about, you mentioned Alexander, you know, he's a guy, obviously, but I think we kind of know his background, and he did some returning before, but just what have you seen from him in practice? What do we see from him in training camp?
Yeah, Mo, I mean, the great thing about Mo is he's quick. He's a very quick starter. He's a good ball catcher. He's a very quick starter. And he can make a lot of guys miss, especially in short areas and tight spaces. And then he does a good job of attacking the coverage and opening up running lanes or holes and moving people, moving defenders, and helping make the blockers look a little bit better than maybe they are by creating some space for himself. So obviously the challenge there is the whole roster management. You know, you can bring 2 practice squad guys up. Who are those 2 guys going to be? Where do you need the help the most? What's going to make the team the best? And it's not just any one phase, but making sure that we're doing the best thing for the whole team. And I think that's where Dan and Brad and those guys, you know, that's the challenge that they have in front of them. So it's not necessarily who's the next best returner necessarily, but also what's the best combination for the whole football team and in this game, you know, and what's going to help us win the most.
St. Brown, like that's another discussion, I guess, right? And just in terms of workload, is that a factor?
Yeah, so that definitely is part of that conversation there. You know, obviously this discussion hopefully is not a long-term thing with Leaf, you know, if he's not able to go. But hopefully it's not long-term, so that maybe it's not quite as important, you know, any one game. But yeah, that's definitely a part of it.
Dan,
casually missed a second extra point in a couple weeks. I guess I'm just wondering at this point in the year, pressure is going to be ratcheted up. What about his makeup gives you confidence that in a big pressure moment he can make the kicks and be what you guys want?
For me, it's just seeing him every day. You know, if that miss, he missed hit the ball. It wasn't a good strike on the ball by him, obviously. I definitely don't like that. But I would be more concerned if it was something that I saw repeating itself over and over. Then I'd be much more concerned about it. And the one thing about him is, and that's really why we went with him, is he's just been so consistent in how he strikes the ball, practice, game, all that stuff for us. So.
I don't know if you saw the NFLPA survey just on approval rating of coordinators. AG was the top guy for defense. You appeared in the list, top 5 of special teams coordinators. Just, I guess, what it means to get that recognition, respect from your players league-wide.
Yeah, well, I would say this. I respect the players immensely, and it's really what I do it for, and where I see all my, fulfillment or enjoyment in doing what I do really comes through them. So I definitely appreciate and respect that. But I would also say probably my least favorite thing is attention like that. So, so I really, I like staying under the radar and away from all that talk and discussion.
Like a St. Brown-esque list of the 3 guys in front of you that you're constantly ranting
No,
off.
but I would say if I ever end up on the top 3 of Belichick's list, let me know.
Designed to be a head coach. I mean, we talk about it with Dan and Aaron sometimes because they've had some requests in. Do you have any?
Myself personally, no, when I was a young coach, I definitely wanted to do that. I think most guys start out that way. That's kind of the top and the ultimate goal. And it's funny that over time there's been a shift for me, just being around it. I love what I do more than anything in the world. I love my role. I love coaching special teams. I love being able to meet with every guy on the roster. This morning we had even the offensive lineman in there, field goal block. So I get to work with pretty much the whole team and develop a relationship and rapport with those guys. I love that more than anything. There's some things that I think that come along with the head coach job that are probably my least favorite things to do and be a part of. And so for me, I love what I do, and I really don't have any interest. At one point I did. I definitely don't. I'm definitely excited for Ben and AG and those guys. I mean, Ben and I go back to Miami when he was quality control, banging around, trying to make it. I went to Philly. He was trying to hang in there. They brought in Adam Gase. He hadn't gotten a job yet with him. He was hoping to stay on, get something. He was out. Matt Patricia gave him a chance here. They were going to make him the tight end coach, maybe not, maybe not. And then they did. And so seeing him go through that whole process is just incredible. And then seeing him now today, he's King Kong and, everyone wants him. And it's great, though. It's great to see because he's always been incredible in my book. I mean, the guy's an amazing coach. He's a great person. He's extremely gifted and talented in what he does. And he does it the right way. And he's had to go the hard route, which I think is only going to make him better when he gets his opportunity.
What was your reaction to the Belichick news?
Oh man, it's just crazy for me. I sat up here and shared with you guys when we play Seattle. What a great team those guys are, and I think that these coaches, obviously Coach Carroll in Seattle and Coach Belichick in New England. I mean, when you play against them as an assistant coach, you're going against a team that embodies their personality. Whether that's Carroll and his energy, and those guys are going to play hard as can be. High motor, high effort, run and hit, those types of teams, or it's Belichick where it's like, man, you better have every, whatever they say, I dotted and T crossed because he's going to challenge you every way schematically that you can find. And if there's a weakness out there on film, he's going to find it and he's going to expose you. And so when you coach against those guys, I mean, just the amount of respect you have for them, which is really my affection for them, is really just comes out of respect for the job that they do. I mean, these guys are, 2 of the best coaches ever in the game. I mean, certainly Belichick. And it's been fun to watch them. I've learned a lot from them, and it's been fun to watch them. Obviously, it's just crazy to see that going on right now, but that's the nature of the profession. And anyway, I look forward to seeing what both those guys are going to do next because I'm sure neither of them can stop. So maybe Belichick will take me fishing.
there any storylines this week? Anything going on? Yeah.
With AG, we've got 5 interview requests. Just what it means to you, I guess, to be acknowledged in that way, and then are you planning on taking all 5 when that window of availability opens up for you?
It's awesome, quite an honor, but honestly, I haven't thought about it beyond anything that's going on this week. So just leave it at that for right now. Don't know.
One more, same thing, just hearing this, but just Dan will have his own coaching tree at some point. You know, you may be part of that at some point. What have you learned from him? The most important thing that you've learned from him about what makes a good head coach?
Ooh, that's a great one. Listen, he's the best leader I've been around. I think, regardless of whichever sport I've been a part of, it's really impressive what he's been able to do. Being true to himself, demanding. He's results driven, but yet his way of delivering a message and getting it across, what to say, how to say it at the right time. I mean, it's really unique and it's special. I think it's hard to replicate, to be honest with you. But more than anything, it's really just being comfortable in his own skin and trusting and empowering those around him. He's created an environment here as coordinators, as position coaches, as players, that we're very comfortable, and it helps us be the best that we can be at our jobs.
You've seen this unbelievable slate of defensive linemen this year through the season, whether it's Hunter or Crosby or Parsons. What is the key to preparing for an Aaron Donald, and how does that maybe differ from a guy like Parsons who moves all over that front 7?
Yeah, so this one is it's different because most of the guys we faced this year that were super dynamic, like Donald, were edge guys that would sometimes line up inside. And then this week, it's certainly he's at a 3 technique quite a bit. Third down, they'll move him around. But the combination of him with this rookie has been probably the best defensive tackle tandem we faced all year. So it's different. Feel good about the plan that we have going in right now. And listen, you try to minimize his opportunities to get one-on-ones, but it's hard. It's hard. I think he feasts almost every week by getting one-on-one matchups and beating the guy across from him. So we will be very much aware of where he is on the field and try to adjust accordingly.
How much, watching the tape, does Jordan Fuller mean for their defense? I think he's generated 6 turnovers. I think he's second on tackles. Don't know if he'll be available or not, but when you have a safety that's that productive, a veteran guy, kind of the field general, just what does a guy like that mean to a defense?
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but certainly he's had a lot of ball production that we're conscious of. He's in the post, or he's the high safety more often than not, and 43 is the one that comes down. So he does have great vision. He understands patterns and gets a jump on routes ahead of time. So we got to be if he is out there, I know he'll know what we've put on tape so far, and he'll be a step ahead of us.
Do you feel like your run game finished the season?
Say it again.
Just your run game. How do you feel like it finished the season?
Last game wasn't quite where we wanted it, and then the week before against Dallas was a little bit disappointing. For the second half of the season, really since the bye week, we've been trending the right direction. The last 2 games was not what we want. Last week we were mistargeted and our communication was off too much, and so we're looking to fix that right now.
How do you want to fix that?
Game plan wise, maybe it's a little bit less complexity. All right, and then volume certainly plays a part in that. We feel like we have a good number going into each game, and we're just conscious if defense presents us with a lot of looks, maybe we need to scale back that number just a little bit. So as a coaching staff, that's what we're looking at. The guys up front, they're pros. They take a lot of pride in being right and being targeted correctly each and every time, and so it's really on us as a coaching staff just to get the right mix.
Sam this week or not, but you're getting Brock back. You saw during the stretch last year where you guys were 8-2 to finish year. I think you had 4 touchdowns during that stretch. Does anything change putting Brock and Robert sorry,
Mitch.
Mitch, thanks. Putting them in that spot as opposed to Laporta, has anything changed with the schemes offensively? Do you have trust that those two guys?
Yeah, I mean, we're always going to do what those guys do best. Whoever we have out there. Laporta's got a little bit different skill set than the rest of those guys, and really, frankly, with the rest of the league, he's awesome. So yeah, if he can't go, then those other guys, they'll have to step up, and maybe we just ask them to do a little bit different jobs than what we've done with Sam. But it'll be great potentially getting Brock back here this week. He has been quietly over the last few years a key cog in what we do offensively.
Jones was
James Mitchell as well. What have you seen from his development in terms of what he can bring you?
Shoot, he's like all the rest of these young guys. It's every single game, the more reps he's getting better each and every week. So the arrow's pointing up with him, and it's just been a matter of getting him reps. He's had Sam and he's had Brock ahead of him, so it's been a little bit challenging early in the season.
Ernest Jones was a rookie, just kind of figuring it out when you guys played the Rams last. Looks just by the numbers that he's one of their more impactful players now. I think they even rested him for the finale. So what have you seen on film with what he brings to their front seven?
Hit me again. The name?
The middle linebacker Jones.
Yeah, I'm with you. No, those guys are playing really good ball. And so I think that's really the strength of their defense is between the backers and between the two defensive tackles. Those are the guys that jump off the tape the most. The defensive tackles wreak enough havoc to where those linebackers are playing sideline to sideline. They're really well coached. This is a really good scheme that Raheem's got going on with them. So they make everything look the same for the most part pre-snap. It's hard to get too many tells on them. And so you can tell the backers are really feasting on that system.
A lot has been made about the youth of your guys' team, but one area where you guys are really experienced is the offensive line and quarterback offensively. How much confidence does it give you going into these types of moments, big games, that is your most experienced group is offensive line and quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, Jared's played in big games throughout his career, and so he really doesn't bat an eye as we transition into the postseason now. And then the guys up front, they've played a ton of games, whether national championships in college or now the postseason in the NFL. But feel really good about having solidified that offensive line over the course of the season and getting those guys to where they feel gelled and on the same page with whatever we ask them to do.
You've been to the playoffs once in your coaching career.
That's right.
Yeah. So what does this opportunity mean, and how do you just make sure that not you but your unit, everyone sort of takes advantage of the opportunity? I guess.
Yeah, I think Coach made the comment earlier this week that it's important that we don't press, but we still are looking to be productive. So I think that's the biggest thing. It's just our next game on our schedule right now, and not to try to squeeze too tight to where it backfires on us. So I think the urgency and the intensity is right where it needs to be, but yet we still have the looseness about us right now, at least what I'm observing in practice and walk through in meetings that we'll be able to play and have some fun.
I asked you last week about just the awareness of milestones in regard to the 1,000 opportunity with Gibbs and Montgomery, but just your decision, I guess, at the end of the game to get Josh his incentive bonus and why that was important to you as his coach.
Yeah, I mean, it was something we talked about early in the week. Truthfully, I thought it would be a little bit easier. I mean, St. Brown makes an incredible play, a 70-yard touchdown. I've never been more disappointed on a 70-yard touchdown in my life. I mean, I'm walking away, and I got half the team looking like, what's his problem? And I'm like, yeah, well, I was trying to get Josh the ball to, I was like, so we'd practiced the play all week with Josh on the outside and Saint on the inside, and then I'm thinking, oh, well, let's get him as a primary receiver to get us there, and then they gave us a coverage that was a little bit different, and Jared did a heck of a job adjusting, and so no, it's awesome. It starts with the head coach. He knows how important that is for those guys. Particularly, I think he mentioned it after the game. Josh has flown under the radar all season long, and doesn't bat an eye. Is he the top target? No, but is he the 2? Is he the 3? And it really doesn't matter to him. He comes out, he plays hard. We know what we're going to get in the run game each and every day with him. And as much as I wish he had 1,000 yards, he got 600, and it's a great incentive for him. So I'm really happy for him. Yep. Thank you.